I've been doing this now for 7 years, making videos on a very consistent basis for a while. So this week I kind of want to just reflect on those past 7 years and talk about some of the challenges that I've faced and if it's been worthwhile in terms of how much money I've made. I know a lot of folks are generally very curious about that, and just kind of look back on it all. You know, if anyone is out there considering starting a YouTube channel, maybe this would be helpful for them, or I know a lot of you folks are just curious about what it's like to make videos like this week in and week out for 7 years. I've got the camper to myself this afternoon. Shannon is off working, so I figured this would be a perfect time to do this. I published my first video back, I believe it was on March 3rd, 2016. It was the original tour of my Honda Element camper. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing when I made this video, but I thought it would be fun to share the the camper that I had in that Element. It was kind of different, and it was what I was living out of and what I ended up living out of for quite a few years after that, after making that video. So I thought it would be something that was worth sharing. Since then, I have made somewhere close to 450 videos. I think it's 446 might be what we're at, somewhere in that area, which is a lot of videos. On average, it's really hard to quantify, but I probably spend somewhere on average between 15 and 20 hours making a video that includes planning it out and thinking of different ideas and writing things down. Sometimes I'll do a little script or a little outline and then filming it over so many days, and then taking all that footage and compiling it and getting it set up on my hard drives and editing, which takes probably the most time of everything. Editing is by far my favorite part of the process. There really has never been a time over the last 7 years when I've been bummed out about having to edit. I really enjoy creating something from a bunch of raw footage and putting it together and like really creating a story and tying it together with music. It's very time consuming. There have been videos that I have spent 30 or 40 or even 50 hours putting together, and then there's been other videos where I've spent a little bit less time. So, if you figure that 15 to 20 hours per video times about 450 videos, we're looking at somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 hours that I've spent making videos, just making videos over the past 7 years. Obviously, there's more that comes with managing a YouTube channel. I do have my website, el.life. I'm usually adding a couple of blog posts on there from time to time, and then managing my emails, trying to coordinate brand partnerships as well, working with folks that could potentially sponsor the channel in the future, and then working on like merchandise and different designs for like stickers and graphic designs for the website. I do actually have some new stickers available. I haven't made them in a really long time, but made this one very recently with the truck camper on it, parked on the beach, and then I've just got the EL Element Life logo for this one. Just got these in the mail a couple of days ago, so they will be available on my website, el.life. I'll put a link in the description below if anybody is interested in checking those out and supporting the channel that way by getting those stickers. But yeah, I mean, all of those different things, they take a lot of time. So, it is a full-time job managing a YouTube channel. And then additionally, on top of the YouTube work, I've also had other work over the past 7 years, the seasonal jobs, and then every other gig that I've done since then, between the drone videography stuff, shooting wedding films that I occasionally do, a few of those every year, and then building out vans, a lot of different things that I picked up, building the tiny house all of last year as well. That was incredibly time consuming. So it's been a very busy 7 years, we'll put it that way, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, I'm so grateful that I chose this route instead of what I was doing before I decided to live in my Honda Element back in 2016. If I hadn't made the decision to hit the road and travel out of my element and live out of my element for all that time, I would have never had any of these experiences. So I'm incredibly grateful for this life that I've chosen, and I've been blessed to be able to pursue it. That all being said, looking back to 2016 when I first started this YouTube channel, I did not expect this to happen. I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. I made that first video, the tour of my Honda Element camper. I had also taken some inspiration from the handful of van life YouTubers that were out there at the time. Brian, Adventure Van Man, and Jed from Into the Mystery 13 were a couple of them. And, you know, just seeing their videos was part of what gave me that final push to move into my Honda Element camper and finish the conversion with my grandpa and just hit the road. So I felt grateful to them, and I thought it would be cool for, you know, to create some videos of my own and maybe inspire some other folks that were in a similar situation that I was in, where they weren't happy in their jobs and they felt kind of trapped and maybe wanted to explore alternative living to try to find some greater financial freedom. Anyways, after making that first video, I noticed that it did somewhat well. It seemed like there was some interest in it, so I decided to just keep making videos. I just decided to stick with it. And, you know, for the first few years, I was working seasonal jobs. That was my primary source of income, between teaching surf lessons out in San Diego and then doing the sugar beet harvest in North Dakota. And then I picked up a temp job in New Orleans, and then I went back to teaching surf lessons in San Diego. Like, that was where most of my income was coming from. You know, YouTube didn't really provide a lot of income for those first couple of years. I would make maybe a couple $100, maybe $300-400 in a good month from AdSense revenue, and that was about it. But, you know, as I kept pursuing it and just continued to make videos, I got, I think, better at making videos. I learned how to edit with Adobe Premiere Pro and sort of progressed over that time and really fell in love with, like, the filmmaking process. And I remember at one point back in 2017, I was working my second summer as a surf instructor in San Diego, and we were in August at that point, and we were getting towards the end of the season. And I remember I made a video. I kind of proposed the idea of, like, starting a daily vlog and really starting to focus on YouTube and, you know, just hitting the road and giving it a try. And I ended up doing that. I ended up starting a daily vlog. It was, you know, August of 2017. I made videos, 4, 5, maybe even 6 videos a week for a little while, which was an eye-opening experience. Like, it was a lot of work doing that. I remember just being at coffee shops in San Francisco until like 3 a.m. They were open 24 hours. There were some 24-hour Starbuckses, and I would just be in there, you know, until 2 or 3 a.m. editing, and then I'd go to sleep for a few hours, and then I'd wake up the next morning and start making another video. So, I mean, it was challenging, but at the same time, I learned a lot about that video production process. I got better at it, and it's kind of what pushed me to really just continue focusing on YouTube. And, you know, eventually I slowed down and I kind of fell off the daily vlog thing and was making maybe a couple videos a week. And still at this point, I wasn't really making a lot of money on YouTube, you know, maybe $400 or $500 in a month at the most from AdSense revenue. But I picked up other seasonal jobs and just kept doing the best that I could with trying to make consistent content. Eventually 2019 came around, early 2019, and that's when I decided to make the change from my Honda Element. I bought a Nissan NV200, financed it, and decided to convert that. And right around that time was when YouTube became more than just a little bit of extra money every month. I was able to make, you know, maybe $1,000 from AdSense revenue in a month. And then I started picking up brand sponsorships and that kind of thing, and I was able to make a little bit more. And, you know, it certainly wasn't a lot of money. You know, it was still relatively minimal, but my expenses were low enough that I could make it happen. And I started making videos consistently at that point in 2019. I started publishing on Fridays at the exact same time, and that's when the channel started to see some success. Since then, there have definitely been high times and then low times that have come with this YouTube channel. This is probably a good time to start talking about some of the challenges that I've faced managing this channel over the past 7 years. It's not easy. There's definitely quite a few things that act as obstacles. I think one of those is just trying to maintain a consistent source of income from YouTube. You know, you might have a video that does really well in one month and your income will be up here from the AdSense, but then, you know, the next month you just have some videos that do average and then your income's back down to here, and then maybe you have a couple videos that don't do so well the following month and then your income's down here, then you have a video that does well and it's back up here, but then it just drops off and it's back down again. So it can, a lot of the time, be like a roller coaster ride, and I think that applies to basically anybody that owns a business or is self-employed like this. I think it's pretty common for income to be inconsistent. You just have to just be able to ebb and flow with it and kind of go with the flow. For YouTube in particular, it can be relatively unpredictable, I find. You know, another challenge is trying to like figure out the algorithms and the things that present videos to folks that are subscribed and even folks that are not subscribed, trying to reach new viewers. It's really difficult to understand how that works and to really put your finger on what things are trending. And, you know, you can get into a rhythm and start doing something and be like, oh, this works really well. But then a couple months later, you keep doing that thing, and it's like, well, wait a second, it's not really working so well anymore. And you got to figure out what changed and what is different now. And I don't know, it's just, it's interesting, it's fascinating, but it's really sometimes kind of discouraging. I remember a couple of years ago, I did a video titled, I think it was like my best drone shots from across America. And it was something that I was super excited about. I spent so much time compiling all of these drone shots from all of my years on the road. I basically have footage from every single state, and I put it all together with all this music. I started on the East Coast, and I worked my way to the West Coast, and put little state flags, and I graded everything. I was learning color grading in DaVinci Resolve at the time, so I was like really enjoying that. It was fun putting it together, but it was a ton of work. I mean, we're talking 30, 40, maybe even 50 hours of just editing for that video. It took me forever to get everything together. And I thought it was going to do pretty well. I thought it was kind of a really cool video. I thought it would maybe reach some new folks who are interested in drone stuff. There is a lot of drone stuff on the channel, or at least there was back then. But I published it, and it is probably the worst performing video that I've made in many years. I'll put a link in the description below if anyone wants to check that one out. But it was a huge bummer. Like, it was extremely discouraging to spend all that time and put all of that passion into something and then have it basically make $0. I mean, we're talking like $15 in AdSense revenue after all of that. And when you expected it to do better. Then what's interesting, on the opposite end of that spectrum, right? If you go back to 2016, there was a video that I made that I can think of. And it's probably one of the worst videos that I've ever made. It was a tour of a bus that someone had converted into like a very basic camper. Arguably the worst video I've ever made. I don't really like it. But it did extremely well, because simply the way that I titled it and the fact that it was maybe trending at the time and the keywords that I used, put it out. It's one of the best performing videos that I've ever made. And it's also at the same time probably the worst video that I've ever made. So it's just, it's very, it's confusing. It's perplexing. Another challenge is trying to cope with and handle negativity. Generally speaking, the Element Life community, all of you guys are overwhelmingly positive. There's a lot of positive comments that are out there, and I very much so appreciate you guys with the positive support. I do my best to read every single comment, and I greatly appreciate all of you guys that take the time to put messages out there, and some of the things that you share on those more information-based videos can be really helpful and certainly help other folks who are out there trying to maybe build a solar system or whatever it may be. So I'm very grateful for all of that. But something that I think a lot of YouTubers deal with is trying to cope with the negativity and the negative comments and the hateful comments. And those do happen, and there's nothing that you can do to prevent them. If you put yourself out there, that just comes with it. It's just part of the territory, right? It's par for the course. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. And, you know, I remember an example of that going back to when I did the Hi-Ace and decided to buy the Hi-Ace. Around that time was probably one of the worst times for negativity on the channel. I had a lot of negative comments, a lot of naysayers that looked at that Hi-Ace and said, you're stupid, why would you buy that? That's a horrible mistake, that's not practical. That was tough, like that was hard. I know I made a video addressing that. I literally went into detail and just spoke directly to folks that were the naysayers, and it just kind of comes with it, you know. But through those experiences, I've developed thicker skin. It's something that affects me, for sure, and I think it affects everybody who takes the time to make YouTube videos like this. And I think the last challenge that I can think of off the top of my head at this moment is that creating videos on YouTube can kind of become almost like a conveyor belt. it can feel like you just have to keep producing week in and week out, because consistency is pretty important with YouTube. You know, obviously I understand I can miss a week here and there if I need to, and I certainly have at the beginning of this year when I took a trip with Shannon's family and all that. But it can lead to burnout. It can make you feel burnt out. In terms of income, I know this is something that a lot of folks are curious about. How much money do you make on YouTube? It can be pretty difficult to answer this question because, like I said before, income can be very inconsistent. There are some months that are really good and there are some months that are really bad. Last month, for example, February of 2023, I made like under $400 in AdSense revenue. And there wasn't really a whole lot else to supplement that. I do have Patreon, and I am incredibly grateful for my patrons. Some of them have been there for many, many years since the beginning of this channel. I do earn about $200 additional a month from Patreon. Definitely helps to supplement those low months when I don't really make any money from AdSense revenue. But that all being said, you know, it can really vary. When the channel was at its peak and doing really well a couple of years ago, like there were months where I made up to $3,000 in a single month. And then most months were in like the $1,500 area, maybe $1,400 during good months. And then the bad months could be as low as like $1,000. Definitely something to consider, I guess, if you're out there thinking about starting a channel and your pure goal is to make money. It's really not super profitable. But that being said, I do supplement the AdSense revenue with partnerships with a couple of different brands. Those come and go, and you know, those add a little bit of extra money. And as I've said a few times, my expenses are so low that I'm able to make it work. And then I do obviously pick up other gigs as well, the videography stuff and building things. And so overall, making money on YouTube can be extremely inconsistent, and it can be sometimes discouraging, but sometimes it's really encouraging to, you know, to be able to have a video do really well and earn some extra money. I enjoy making these videos week in and week out. I love the editing process, like I've already said, and I wouldn't change it. I'm still going to continue to make these videos as much as I can because I enjoy doing it. I absolutely love the process, and I love creating stories, especially like short films. I have some ideas for the future where I want to do some short films and put those together. And then obviously I'm excited about the off-grid stuff that we're going to be doing and the projects all around the property in the high desert of New Mexico. So there's a lot to look forward to. I am super excited about it all. I've always stuck with creating videos consistently, and I intend to do that for the for the foreseeable future. So I can't thank you all enough for watching this video, guys, and being along for this journey, and just for being here. I know some of y'all have been around for many, many years, since the very beginning, and I still don't fully understand how this all happened from when I made that first video of my Honda Element camper to today, and this community that has been created as a result of it. And I'm so grateful that it has happened. I really can't believe it. Most of the time when I think back to it, I don't fully understand it, but here we are. And like I said, I can't thank y'all enough for all of your support over the years. Hope this video was helpful for anybody out there that is considering starting a YouTube channel or is just curious about what it's like and how making videos every week can impact a person. And it definitely has changed me. Definitely has been stressful at times. Has been overwhelming at times, but at the same time, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been an awesome experience and something that I have definitely grown from and definitely learned from. Thanks again, guys. I'll talk to you all in the next one.